Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. Check out how sick this piece is. My god. There's something about this which feels just incredibly dark, and it's hard to say what because it feels like it's combined with these symbols of life so much. Maybe it's this right here. It kind of feels like a Cthulhu or some type of creature here. So obviously in our initial introduction here, we're met with the eyes of what appears to be a deer skull. Could be a bull as well, or even some other creature. It's really hard to tell, but let's go with an animalistic skull here. That is just met face to face. The eyes are directly in front of us. We see all these tubing just radiating from this center source here, and those, of course, they feel like haptics or maybe even some type of breathing hardware, and that, of course, all reinforces the idea of life within the piece here. So we see this light here, this circular shape that's glowing with a smaller one as well, and that's also within a triangle as well. So that's really balanced. And also if you notice here, you'll see that there's kind of this radial layout here, and that all emerges from the center. So that also gives us a feeling of balance, but it adds a lot more depth as there's these kind of hidden textures and strikings to the piece as well. So that's really interesting to note as well. So I'm drawn to this piece here because I can't tell if it's levitating or if it's cracked. Because this piece feels divine. It feels like we're watching some type of ancient artifact, which is a symbol of this creature's third eye. That's what I see here, and I wonder: is this cracked and deteriorating, or is it simply levitating and reinforcing that feeling of divinity or of a higher state of being? It's really hard for me to tell, which is why I just wanted to mention both there as well. So, of course, this kind of consciousness and life based themes are really important. That, of course, gives the idea of the divinity itself because you are the enlightened one through that experience and through the word of language, of course. So we see a near symmetrical spatial composition, and this feels really balanced. Even though there's a lot going on within this piece, of course, you have this cracked visual energy here. You have all these series of tubings, multi layers on top of one and the other. You have some meshing around here. Those all feel really chaotic. It gives a lot of energy within the spatial composition, and that's not a bad thing at all because it's balanced by this sense of near symmetry here. Of course, it's not perfectly symmetrical because you look at something like this, and that, of course, is not perfectly symmetrical, but it is very, very, very close to near symmetry, and it is very close to complete symmetry, that is. So that makes it near symmetry, but it is very close, which feels really harmonious. It's a really balanced spatial composition because it's mirrored across this center axis here. So that's always incredibly important to note. It feels like this center subject or the skull is just staring directly at you. So there's something that's so intimate and even confrontational, like you're staring at this complex creature. So that's also really important to note. And I wanted to bring in another piece as well. This is just from the same collection that he's currently working on, which you'll see. Let's replace it with this piece, just to give you guys a bit of a better viewing experience here. So you see, in this piece here, let's actually judge them together. So the skull mimics the tubing and the colors here. So you have that blue green color palette. So it feels like it's morphed and connected to that completely, almost interconnected. Like right here, you see it just goes straight into the nose and through it even. So it all comes from that singular source. So it feels like it's emerging from that creature. But with this piece, like the contrast, of course, it's still going through, it's still powered by it, but you can see a lot more how he's taking these animalistic skulls or even prehistoric skulls, which what look like in some cases, and he just gets all these series of tubing through it, and it gives you that sense of life. But there's this weird juxtaposition contrast of death and life, because of course you see the light of life, you see all these haptics, and you see all this hardware of breathing and being able to sustain the life, but it's a skull, so that by definition is death. So it's a bit. I love how he juxtaposes that because it gives me this feeling of kind of dark art or horror. But with a piece like this doesn't really feel that dark. And maybe I'm not necessarily sure why. Maybe it's the Cthulhu vibes I'm getting from this one, but this one really shows what's going on in the collection. Check out some of his other pieces. Check out some more in this collection as well. I think he's starting to move beyond it, or he's still posting. It's hard to say, but we absolutely love this collection. It's been going viral recently, so that's always really nice to see. And of course, this gives that visual energy. Always remember that. There's all these intersecting lines and flows here. It just goes through constantly and it never stops. So that gives you that visual energy. Yet somehow it's still perfectly symmetrical across that center axis. So those are always incredibly important to note. I hope you guys enjoyed the piece today. We're going to be moving into some more green pieces as well, and hopefully past it in some of the next 5 days. But I really like these pieces. I hope you guys enjoyed as well. This piece was just, when I first saw it, it was just sick, and I knew I had to study it a bit deeper. So I hope we achieved that today and you learned a bit more. So the original artist, Will Toulan, he made it's either Toulan or Toulan. He made his first premiere debut on the 28th of October of last year with one of his digital renderings as well. So go check out that piece from the past. You can see a little bit of history with this artist. You can see how artists change around in style and how, as creative types, our identity is always changing. So we're always trying to go for some new pieces and push the boundary. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something, and I'll see you guys on the next Apollo Art Analysis.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Polar Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.